This episode of the Boat Geeks is sponsored by The Boater's Guide, a free app for Pacific Northwest boaters. The Boater's Guide is adventure and information, right at your fingertips, right when you need it. Find your happy place with The Boater's Guide, a free download on your phone or tablet in the App Store and Google Play.
All right, here's another very special episode of the Boat Geeks podcast, recorded live on location at the Port Townsend Wooden Boat Festival 2024.
The 47th annual Port Townsend Wooden Boat Festival, which is the granddaddy of wooden boat festivals in North America.
Yeah, and for a very good reason. It's a small marina, but they packed that thing full of amazing wooden boats, from the tiniest dinghy
all the way up to motor yachts and big schooners.
Yeah, it was just a pleasure. Sitting in between each show, we got to stare at all the boats and dream, and it was amazing to see so many beautiful boats in one place, as well as so many amazing and beautiful people in one place.
We met men and women from around the world that are part of this wooden boat universe.
Indeed, and it was a pleasure talking to every single one of them, and we got to meet some of you.
Yeah, some of our listeners and fans we got to interact with, and that was a real treat.
Let's get right into it. Here is the next episode of the Boat Geeks.
From the Port Townsend Wooden Boat Festival and recorded in the Fisheries Supply, live from the Wooden Boat Festival stage, it's the Boat Geeks with Darren and Daeron.
We're the Boat Geeks, whatever floats your boat. We're the Boat Geeks, it's the boat that floats that we love the most. Yes, we love the
Welcome to another episode of the Boat Geeks podcast special edition, coming to you live from the Port Townsend Wooden Boat Festival 2024. I am your host, Darren.
And I'm your other host, Darren, and we are in the Fisheries Supply live from the Wooden Boat Festival stage. And we have a special guest right now. This is Sam Devlin of the Devlin Boat Company. I'm sure you've probably heard of him.
Yes.
Sam, welcome to the Boat Geeks.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Yeah, I think probably a lot of our viewers and listeners have heard the name. If you don't know the boats specifically, I've seen the boats because of coming to this boat festival for many years. And I also have heard people talking about them. We have friends that want to buy one, build one. So I am super anxious to just hear about you and your involvement with the Wooden Boat Festival and what that's been like for you over the years. So can you tell us about your boats, first of all? Just give us kind of a
Sure,
overview.
But first order of business, who's
Sure.
your friends?
Yeah.
They're right up the hill. I will give you their info.
Yeah.
So this is my 46th year of doing the Wooden Boat
Wow.
Festival. I missed number one.
Wow.
That's amazing. First of
Yeah.
all, we haven't had a guest that has been true
Yeah.
with. Yeah, that's amazing.
So by my own accounting, I'm probably the oldest commercial exhibitor because
You have to be.
Yeah.
I've exhibited every year, and which is hard to accomplish for a 50-year-old.
That's right. You started when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
So what was, real quick, what was it like the first time you did it? What was the show like then?
Scary.
Yeah, it must have been,
Really
right?
scary, intimidating, afraid that the wooden boat aficionados here in Port Townsend would overwhelm. At that time, my shop was in Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And,
Okay.
it was a trek to get up here, and everything about it was intimidating, but welcoming once we got up here, and eventually after maybe 40 years embracing.
Now you're institutionalized. You're part of
Yeah.
the Wooden Boat Festival.
Yeah, we have the Devlin Ghetto section of the show, so you can
That
ask any
corner?
volunteer
Yeah.
here. The northwest corner of the show is the Devlin Ghetto, and that's the expectation is that we will be there year after year. And
Yes. Well, we count on it.
Question, after that many years, after that many decades with the show, do you get your own private parking spot?
No, and this is the first year. This is a true confession. that I've worn a
Oh,
wrist
my
band.
goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Usually I refuse to. It's like,
Yeah.
I should be, somehow.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
I was coming to these festivals
Yeah,
before you were
but-
born.
But it didn't work this year. And I in my middle age, I've decided to not buck the system.
You're mellowing out now.
Yeah, a little bit.
Did that cruise to Alaska help on Puffin?
Yeah, it helped a lot. Yeah, I went north for 3.5 months this
Yeah.
summer on my boat, and
Good for you.
First time I've ever taken that long a period of time off, and
Wow.
and I got to revisit. I worked in college years. I worked up in Alaska on tugboats, and so I got to revisit areas I'd been before and people that I had met before.
Neat.
So one of my most favorite stories is I got to get reacquainted with a fellow crewmate that was 50 years ago. We were on the tug AMAC and working, and he had issue number 1 of Wooden Boat magazine, and I was off watch, sitting in the galley and drinking coffee and musing to myself while I'm reading the magazine. Well, that would be an interesting thing to do with my life, and I never shook that out of my head. So got reacquainted with him. He's a retired doctor from Ketchikan, and he's a little smarter than I am, but
He's built fewer boats, I bet.
probably, yeah. So, but anyway, it was a really neat full circle summer for me. I very grateful that I had a chance to do this.
So Devlin Boats, how did that come about? And what was the concept and the idea back then? And how did you approach that?
Well, there's kind of a couple of stories that would lead into that. And one was when I was very young, my dad had a boat shop for a period of years in Eugene, and he was inventing the first jet marine engine at the time.
Wow.
He was an inventor at various times of his life, and
That's no small thing.
and I can remember being on the floor of his little shop while he's working away, and he'd cut me out a little boat shaped piece of 2x4 or something, but it was. The feel was good. It was warm. But there was this olfactory cue that was there, and that was the business that was immediately behind my dad's shop was a company called Sweetland Archery, and they had a patented process where they took Port Orford cedar and made compressed arrow shafts.
Oh,
This
wow.
is a long time before carbon and
Right.
aluminum
Yeah.
arrow shafts. So there was this pervasive smell of Port Orford cedar in the air.
Wow.
And that's, if you've ever smelled Port Orford cedar, you would know what I'm talking about. It is literally the most glorious smelling wood in the world.
Wow.
And all those things together are part of my warm, fuzzy, go-to
Like
place.
nostalgia.
Yeah. And so there was that image in my mind. The other image was just after the Vietnam War, there was a period of time, just for a few years, where kind of the rule book got thrown out. In that you could really go and reinvent yourself or invent yourself. It's not a reinvention at that point, but and do anything you wanted. And so I remember when I told my folks I was thinking about becoming a wooden boat builder, they didn't roll their eyes or say you're crazy or
Right.
there was none of that. It was just like, okay, how are you going to do it? And so basically, that was become the mantra. I didn't honestly initially think I could make a living doing it. So I always thought I'd have to go back to sea, and that would earn me the money or the capital so I could, in my time off, I could go and build wooden boats.
It's almost like a hobby is what you were thinking.
But very quickly, it developed past that, and I just never have stopped since then. So
Was it
never
your-
quite caught up? I'm always
my
a
gosh.
little bit behind.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, right? If you're constantly
Good from that point of view. Maybe not good from my customer's point of view. But,
Sure. So where did it turn from kind of like an idea, a hobby, to where you're like, oh, this is was it your involvement with the show? Was it you were making sales down in Oregon and you saw that it was could become a thriving business? What was that transition?
I was working on a crab boat in Kodiak for a short period of time. We came back into town, couldn't stay on the boat. They were doing a Coast Guard inspection of the boat. So one of the other deckhands had offered to let me sleep in his old bus in his backyard, and hadn't slept for quite a few days. So went to sleep, and we woke up and we were having breakfast. I don't recall what time of the day it was, but you always have eggs and bacon for breakfast.
No matter what time. Yep.
And started talking, and he had a young family in Kodiak and wanted to stay there and needed a boat for exploring the waters in his time off. So I sketched up a little 20-foot sailboat and got a deposit check, flew home and started working on it. And really, honestly, I just never have.
You haven't stopped.
I haven't realized that I shouldn't have been in business.
I think you have, the possibility of a business here someday if you keep working at it.
It's got the kernels of that. Yeah.
How many boats have you built?
437.
Man, I love that you had the number. That is amazing. That is so many boats. I mean, that must be overwhelming to you.
Well, in 46 years, it's less than 10. So I actually am thinking myself as being a little lazy.
Well, hopefully when you're being lazy, you're out on your own boat and enjoying.
I always remember William Garden's one rule of business, which I'm sure you probably adhere to. Always make sure you have more money coming in than is going out. Does that work for
you?
I've
never adhered to that. I would think it'd be great to adhere to that one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So what's been the evolution of Devlin Boats? So you started building boats, you got this one job that kind of got everything going. How long did it take before you got involved with the Wooden Boat Festival after that?
Immediately.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Immediately. I mean, I'm jump in the water, don't test the water, just jump in
the deep end,
figure out how to make yourself swim, I guess, kind of guy. And so I jumped in the water and I taught myself how to dog pedal, and maybe eventually got a backstroke in. But
well, that very first show, that very first festival, did you get any? I mean, you probably got
I
leads.
actually sold a boat.
Oh, you
and
did?
I don't very often sell boats.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it started out like, hey, this festival might pay off.
That's fate and that's life. They give you these little tempting things and you kind of go, oh, that's the way it should be. And then it's not that way.
Yeah.
Right.
But you have to realize that later on. So
usually these shows are about planting seeds, right? And you hope that they grow. So over 40 years or 40 plus years,
46 years.
46 years. You are the exact with the numbers. I'm not, and that's awesome. So 46 years. What has the progression been like with your involvement with the show, with your reception with the show? How did it, parallel the growth of your business?
Has the festival had a hand in helping kind of steer either your designs or the overall philosophy of Devlin Boats?
Tough questions, guys.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So I'm going to go back to the first question, and that was how has been my involvement in the show. Initially, it wasn't much other than to come and attend.
Yeah.
But in 2007, we started the Lifetime Achievement Awards, and that our first recipient was William Garden, and I've stayed active with that since, and
Great.
so that's going on how many years we are now, and so that's something that I try to contribute each year, and we now are and have been for several years. We're the kickoff for the show. We start that on Thursday night at 5 p.m. and we give our new Lifetime Achievement Award awardees the honor of their commitment to the wooden boat industry, and that's really the kickoff. And so it's I guess in some respects I've been quite involved with the show. So
and this year's recipient, Mr. Dave Thompson,
who has worked on my boat back in the day.
He's got
in the
a
70s.
1946 Matthews,
Oh, okay.
38 sedan cruiser, and he was hauled out and Dave Thompson stopped by and said, I worked on that boat in 1972 or something.
Yeah, I think we have pictures of him working on the boat, actually.
How cool.
Yeah, it is.
Amazing man.
Yeah,
So,
I love Dave.
you're involved in that capacity, and then you're giving to the festival and to the wooden boat community. But what has the festival and the community given you, and maybe even shaped what you do?
I think inspiration and encouragement is really the bigger thing. It's the closest thing that we have in our industry to collaboration and to a small bit of cooperation. So a little bit of camaraderie. I'm not a Port Townsend person,
Right.
so I don't live in the heart of wooden boat land here.
You're down in Olympia, right?
I'm down in Olympia. And so it's kind of a necessary thing for me to see this cohesiveness of this industry up here in Port Townsend. I can be a little intimidated by it once in a while because there is a colloquial grouping of that, but generally I always come back more energized than when I started. But this is also the end, essentially, of our busy boating season.
Yeah.
We'll start into our winter projects just after this. Everyone's been out cruising and boating, and it's time to get settled in and figure out what we're going to do over the winter. And so it's kind of I kind of put it this way. My life is like it's the holiday season. I take one breath and it's the January boat shows.
Oh, yeah.
I take two breaths and it's Memorial Day. I take three breaths and it's Labor Day, and then I start to respirate normally until January. So, and that's kind of the life of a boat show carny.
Yeah, we were just talking about that yesterday, doing the boat show circuit. So what makes Devlin boats different and special from other wooden boats?
Well, what specifically it's this. It's that someone can come to us with a really screwball idea, and we can try to translate what's in their head, but not on paper necessarily, and try to put that down on paper and then translate and breathe life into it by building or giving them plans to build a boat. And initially there was very few companies that could and would do that. There certainly were boat builders and there certainly were designers, but there were few boat builder designers.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I met Phil Bolger on the East Coast. He told me, he said, you got to make up your mind. You're either a boat builder or a designer. You can't do both. And I respectfully replied to him. I said, Phil, you may think that, but
Right.
I hope that I prove you wrong.
Right.
And so that's really always been what we've been about. But the main thing is that we're taking these. And this is what I'm most grateful for, I should say, is that we still live at a time when people can have really screwy, interesting, neat ideas, and that we have this opportunity to try to help them translate that. I really am grateful for that.
must
That's not
be
a given.
so satisfying, though.
Yeah, that's not a given.
Well,
Sure,
so you
of
have
course.
you have people coming to you with screwball ideas and so forth, but I see you also posting some of your own designs so you've got a lot of stuff percolating.
I'm just as screwball as anyone else is.
but
yeah.
King of the screwball ideas.
Some of the coolest designs,
Yeah.
I just dreamt this up.
Well,
Okay,
I think
those are our fans
Yeah.
walking by with whistles.
part of that's motivated by fear, and the fear is that somehow I'll become normal and no longer have inspiration to do something out of the whack. So, I'm grateful.
Yeah. Well, as they say, keep up the good work, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hope to.
All right.
You're not going to stop working. You haven't stopped working for 40
70 years.
Yeah.
So,
And we
46
talked,
years.
46, exactly.
We talked before we started to record here at the festival that we want to have you on one of our regular podcast because we have a whole bunch of more screwball stuff we can talk about.
Yeah, we'd love to talk, get into specific designs and just more about the business and your time in it. But we thank you very much for joining us today. If somebody wants to check out Devlin Boats and Designs, where can they go? What is your website?
Our website's Devlin Boat Company, and not plural, just singular, Devlin Boat Company. Okay. And our shop's in Olympia, Washington. We have a nice website, and you can spend more than a day or two dove into that. There's a lot of information in there.
So we'll have that up on the screen.
I predict you're going to get lost there shortly.
Oh, I am. I'll totally get lost. We'll have your website on the screen. We'll have it in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. They are amazing boats. They're here at the show. I've seen them throughout the years. The boat owners love them, which there's a lot to be said for that. So definitely check it out. If you have some screwball ideas, guess who you want to talk to. So thank you very much for being here. Hope that your last day here at the show is fruitful and that you enjoy it. It's much cooler today, isn't it?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate the chance to talk to you.
Absolutely, and we'll have you back if you'll grace us with your presence. And that has been another Boat Geeks podcast. Until next time, whatever floats your boat.
We're the Boat Geeks, whatever floats your boat. We're the Boat Geeks, it's the boat that floats that we love the most. Yes, we love the boats. We're the Boat Geeks, whatever floats your boat. Walk on the water, float on the sea, crossing the oceans between you and me. The wind in our hair, the salt on the breeze, bringing us closer, life on the sea.